subject duality. So what we're saying is a duality. We're saying that the object is the thing being perceived, and the subject is the perceiver. And the things that can be perceived are either physical or non-physical. So you can perceive an object, or you can perceive a thought. But whether you're perceiving an object or a thought, that's still the object. And there's still a subject perceiving it. One exists with the other. So maybe you could think of it in a way that one conjures up the other. So the subject exists in relationship to the object. It only exists along with the objects, and vice versa. The objects of your consciousness, which are everything that's in the isness, including thoughts, emotions, actual physical objects, are the things being perceived by the subject, and they exist in relation to the subject. Difficult to say where the object ends and the subject begins, because this subject is kind of this single point in the middle in a way that's aware of everything, but at the same time it can't really place its location. It just is there. And so is the object. It just is there at the same time that the subject is just there, which is probably why we're saying this term of isness. So the duality that's described within the seven hermetic principles is describing that duality and the other dualities. But that one's the most important one because it's the duality of isness. And isness is what's happening. It's what is. And there's something like Eastern spiritual traditions is going to start you along a line of inquiry where, for the sake of clarity, they're going to get you to pay attention to isness and have a look to see what's going on, and point you towards the idea that we just described. That there's a seer, perceiver, or an awareness there, and it's aware of the stuff. And that traditional approach is to say you should be identifying with the seer, not with one of the aspects of what is seen. One of the aspects of what is seen is your thought processes and the feeling of this ego. They're going to say, like, you have to separate the ego from the seer and realize that you're the seer and not the ego. But the ego is not such an easy thing to define. It doesn't fall so neatly into the dualist object-subject. Because in the object and the subject, everything which is not the subject is the object. So what is the ego then? It's not the physical objects, it's the metaphysical objects, the thoughts. So the thoughts that remember each other and reference each other and keep your kind of continuity of having a structure to your mind and knowing a language and remembering who you know, and then thinking about thoughts and then having thoughts about those thoughts. Can you then say that all that stuff makes up an ego, like your character? And your character thinks that it's itself, it thinks that it's that. This is the kind of traditional teaching. The traditional Eastern thing is that you've been associating with that set of thought processes, which are a subset of the world of objects, as opposed to the subject. And what you should be doing is placing your awareness or resting or residing within the awareness, which in this model is the subject. You're saying that, like, you've got to be more associated to the subject than the objects. And if you're sitting there then you can essentially have something like a state of no mind, and then that's a bliss state, and you're enlightened. If you can live from that point of view. So that's the kind of the general idea. And then there's a whole bunch of stuff about, using the word transcendental ideas. You're transcending shit reality and going into good reality, better reality, blissful reality, a higher state. So in summary, the teaching is realize the separation between awareness and the ego. Disregard the ego as a false version of yourself. Associate more to the higher version of yourself, which is the awareness. And you can, if you reside within that and have enough gaps between thoughts, you can experience a no mind state. And that's equivalent to an enlightenment.